So 2 weeks ago, I reviewed the SNES Classic, a classic system with 30 original NES games on it. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the classic system for the next generation of consoles, the SNES Classic, with 20 original SNES games on it. It has numerous improvements on its predecessor, and it has some handy features. But is it worth its $70 price tag? So overall, the SNES Classic is very similar to the NES Classic in its package, but there are a few features added, and there are lots of improvements. I'll go over all of them. So let's talk about the controllers on the SNES Classic. The SNES Classic comes with 2 controllers, while the NES Classic only had 1, which was a complaint about it, and I'm glad that they ship with 2 controllers, as now you don't need to buy an extra controller when you want to play with someone else. And instead of having the controller ports right on the system, they're behind a flap which with some of the engravings of the original SNES controller's ports, which is a nice touch, and I'm glad that they added that. Also, the cords of the SNES Classic controllers are quite long compared to the NES Classic controllers, which is a complaint about the NES Classic, since both original consoles had really long controller cords. So let's talk about the game selection on the SNES Classic. The SNES Classic has 20 original SNES games, plus 1 extra game which I'll get onto later. But I think all of these games are really good games for the SNES, like Super Mario World, The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, F-Zero, Super Mario Kart, Super Metroid, and many more. And I think these are all very good games for all ages. I'm very happy with the game selection on the SNES Classic. And also, I talked about 1 extra game, and that is Star Fox 2. So, when the development team on Star Fox had finished Star Fox, they started making Star Fox 2 in the 90s, and by the time it was released, the Nintendo 64 had already released, so there was no point of releasing it, even though it was completely finished. So when they made the SNES Classic, they actually put it on the SNES Classic, so now you can play this game that was never released on the SNES. And it's got quite updated graphics compared to the Star Fox 1, and I think it's a good game. Let's talk about some of the options and features added to the SNES Classic compared to the NES Classic. So in the display section, you can now add a border to your game. So now you can have fancy pillar boxes instead of black ones. And also, on the home screen, you can now, in addition to seeing how many players you can play with the game, you can also see whether a game has save data or whether you should use save slots for it, which is useful. And also, when you reset a game, you can now have this new feature, the rewind feature. So let's say you died or you made a big mistake in the game and you want to rewind a bit to just before that mistake. So if you reset the console and you go to the home screen and you press the X button on the flying picture of where you were at the game, you can now rewind it to slightly before the mistake. And in practice, I've seen this work to about 40 seconds before you exit the game. And also, this also works on save states. If you want to do it on an older game that you saved, then you can also do that. So, some people might consider this cheating, so I wouldn't always use it. So what do I think of the SNES Classic, and should you get it? Well, I think that if you've played SNES Classic games before and you want to play them again, then you should definitely get this. And even if you're a younger person and you want to see where some of modern games came from, I think you should get this. And if you've never played NES games before, I actually recommend getting this over the NES Classic, since these games are better for a younger audience, and unlike NES games, you can actually sit down to play these games for a long time, and they actually have save data, which is good, and much bigger games. And that's it for this review. What do you think of the SNES Classic? Please tell me down in the comments below, and also please like and subscribe to help grow my channel. Thank you for watching my review.